Breaking! Ukraine and NATO are preparing to destroy Russia. Putin clutches his heart. At the same time, Sweden delivers its most powerful weapons. Putin's army is counting its final minutes. Trump is pressuring Zelensky again. What is the US president demanding this time? Shock! China drops a bombshell. Secret aid to the aggressor exposed. Truth or global deception? The world is watching closely and drawing conclusions. Meanwhile, on the front line, the occupiers are being destroyed like cockroaches. Desperate to survive, they dress up as anything imaginable, but the carnival ends in an explosion. And as all this unfolds, Ukraine is preparing ultra-powerful, domestically produced weapons. Moscow is not ready for what's coming. Things are about to get very hot. Let's break down what's happening right now. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. Maria Farafonova here with the latest updates. Urgent. The priorities of cooperation with NATO have been aligned. Ukraine's Minister of Defense Mikhailo Fedorov met with NATO's senior representative to Ukraine Patrick Turner and Lieutenant General Curtis Bazard, commander of NATO's Security Assistance and Training Mission for Ukraine and head of the Ukraine Security Assistance Group. The parties agreed on key cooperation priorities, strengthening air defense, advancing Patriot, F-16 and HIMARS capabilities, as well as joint work to secure a technological edge.
Ukraine is sharing with its partners unique combat experience, real battlefield data, and technological solutions that are already proving effective.
A separate track focuses on coordinating the Ramstein format together with Germany and the United Kingdom to accelerate decision-making and the delivery of critical assistance to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the surge of partner support continues. Sweden is preparing one of the largest aid packages for Ukraine. It will include air defense assets and radars produced by Saab, as well as contributions to Ukraine's defense industrial complex, additional EW systems and drones, including deep strike capabilities. The formation of one of the largest security assistance packages for Ukraine was discussed by Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov during a conversation with his Swedish counterpart Paul Jonsson. The head of Ukraine's defense ministry thanked Sweden for its consistent support and new investments in Ukraine's defense. The sides also focused on several key areas of cooperation: strengthening air defense and countering ballistic threats, partnership in defense innovation, and launching joint production in the defense tech sector.
In addition, the parties held a substantive discussion on the aviation component, including the potential supply of Gripen aircraft and the transfer of Meteor missiles, which are key tools for countering aircraft carrying guided aerial bombs.
A new ultimatum from Trump. According to anonymous Financial Times sources, the US president is ready to provide Ukraine with firm security guarantees only after Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky agrees to withdraw Ukrainian troops from Donetsk region. As many as 8 insiders told the media that the team of US leader Donald Trump has already made it clear to official Kyiv. American security guarantees will be granted only if Zelensky agrees to all provisions of the peace deal.
It is no secret that this document predismatra the withdrawal of Ukraine's defense forces from parts of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions that are not occupied by Russia.
In addition, the White House told Ukraine that the United States is ready to transfer more weapons to strengthen its army in peacetime if Kyiv agrees to the deal. Shock! China's statement on Ukraine has shaken the world. Beijing insists that despite the accusation, it is not using the Russia-Ukraine war for its own benefit. A spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs commented on the Daily Telegraph report alleging Chinese assistance to Russia in producing Orezhnik ballistic missiles.
China's position on the Ukraine crisis is consistent and clear. We are not adding fuel to the fire, nor are we exploiting the conflict for our own gain.
The diplomat once again called the accusations that China is effectively supporting Russia's war against Ukraine an attempt to shift responsibility for the aggression onto Beijing and expressed strong protests over such claims.
We categorically reject any attempt to shift responsibility onto China.
Citing its neutrality in the war, China says it is not providing direct military assistance to either Ukraine or Russia. At the same time, Beijing has not joined Western sanctions that ban the supply of dual-use goods to the aggressor state and does not consider itself obliged to comply with them. Just in, Ukraine's armed forces have revealed how they outplayed the enemy and held Kupiansk. Russians are furious over this. General Gerasimov has buried his head in the sand. Kupiansk-Vuzlovey is under our control. Ukrainian land has struck a painful blow straight at the opponent's military power. Pokrovsk is also out of reach. A triple fiasco for Putin's army. After this, will the dictator finally abandon his insane ideas? More on this next. Don't miss it.
This is the work of the 151st Separate Reconnaissance Battalion on the outskirts of Kupiansk in the Kharkiv region. Ukrainian soldiers are capturing a small assault group of occupiers.
Come out quickly, come out! Come out, come out! Nafa, Nafa! That's it, move quickly! Faster!
And this is already footage from the neighboring Kupiansk-Uzlovyi, which, according to the chief of the Russian General Staff, Valery Gerasimov, has been captured for several days now by the Sever military group. Today,
January 30th. January 30th. Behind me is Kupiansk-Uzlovyi. And what I like about the Russian army to somehow respond to Mr. Gerasimov is that today a group was already sent here with the flags of the 153rd Tank Regiment. The task is to take Kupiansk-Uzlovyi.
the Russian soldiers can't capture the city and its surroundings, so they send small sabotage and reconnaissance groups to film a video with the flag in Kupiansk-Uzlovyi and claim that the city is under Russian control. The operation to clear Kupiansk and its surroundings became the most successful since the Kursk operation. The occupiers couldn't understand what the real goal of the Ukrainian armed forces was until it was too late. The Ukrainian military did not have numerical superiority, so they improved upon the infiltration tactics that the enemy had used. The assault forces were divided into small groups, each consisting of 8 infantrymen. They moved in different directions to confuse the occupying forces.
We decided to carry out assault operations simultaneously in all directions, not openly but covertly. And wherever we achieved success, we built on it. The groups kept moving forward without engaging in large-scale serious battles. If we detected the enemy, we mainly tried to destroy them using UAVs, while the infantry moved on and cut off the enemy's supply routes. UAF fighter.
The attacks by the defense forces coincided with a drop in temperature, rain, and prolonged fog. This hindered Russian reconnaissance. Now, small sabotage and reconnaissance groups are trying to infiltrate Kupiansk and the surrounding areas, but as we can see, all these attempts are futile. The situation near Pokrovsk is also not working out well for the Russian army. There, the occupiers suffer heavy losses in countless and senseless attacks.
In this very location, our brother Mongol's tanks were completely incinerated. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Look how much equipment burned! Pokrovsk, Fortuna! Either into a coffin or into a trench.
The Russian army has new deadlines for the complete occupation of Donbass. Putin wants to reach the borders of Donetsk region by April 2026. And this is despite the fact that the dictator threatened to conquer Donetsk region almost a year ago.
The enemy is now at the peak of their capabilities. They've started sending drone operators into assaults together with the infantry. They've stopped sparing them. They need them to be as close to the front line as possible. At the same time, they don't care that it takes time to train a UAV operator. They're willing to expend even such valuable personnel. Ivan Timochka, chairman of the Council of Reservists of the Ukrainian Ground Forces. Unfortunately,
in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the occupying forces have captured the village of Zlahoda. This was reported by the analytical project Deep State. In addition, the enemy advanced in the Sumy region near the border village of Hrobovske.
The enemy occupied Zlahodon and also advanced near Hrobovske and Yehorivka.
But these gains also came at the cost of heavy losses. In the past few weeks, Russian army losses in Ukraine have sharply increased. And if this trend continues, it will be virtually impossible for Russia to replace its losses without some form of mobilization. In December alone, 35,000 occupying personnel were eliminated in the USSR.
Penguins, trash heaps, and even street toilets. Russian soldiers disguise themselves as just about anything imaginable to avoid being spotted by Ukrainian drone operators and to get a chance to survive. How did these bizarre costume parties end? We'll show you next.
The Ukrainian armed forces are opening the winter hunting season for penguins, or rather, for occupiers pretending to be penguins. Ukrainian soldiers have published videos of attacks on Russian penguins. That's what Kremlin contract soldiers in their awkward camouflage cloaks have been dubbed online. Despite all the creativity of the Russian army, as you can see, the camouflage didn't work. For their efforts, the occupiers only received free tickets to a concert with Kobzon. At first glance, it might seem that the Russian occupiers were dressed up like this by their command as punishment for some misdeed or for refusing to take part in meat grinder assaults. But no, as it turns out, this kind of camouflage is actively advertised and sells well on Russian online marketplaces. Kremlin SVO soldiers are being convinced that they won't find better protection from thermal images and Ukrainian FPV drones. Tested in action is the slogan. And Russians themselves add in the comments, supposedly there haven't been any returns yet. And here's another brilliant innovation from what Putin calls the world's second army.
We're working with tents, practicing setting them up, putting them on, and packing them away. So we have 10 tents, and each group has 5 people.
According to the Russian command's plan, these improvised tents will protect them from Ukrainian drones and the harsh Ukrainian winter. But here's the catch. What is considered a tent beyond the curb is actually a portable camping toilet everywhere else in the world. But for Russian soldiers, eating, sleeping, and relieving themselves in the same place is nothing out of the ordinary.
On the left, penguins from Madagascar. On the right, penguins from Vorkuta.
However, to be fair, sometimes the occupiers do manage to hide themselves quite well from the eyes of Ukrainian drone operators.
We're walking by. There's a pile of something lying there. Presumably an Adamovsky soldier.
Such camouflage, especially in the ruins of urban areas, is hard to distinguish from other debris.
Come on, let's crawl out together slowly. He just gets up a little bit and he starts working. Then he's a pile again.
But only a handful at the front can boast such equipment. Most are sent into assaults by Russian generals wearing whatever they have. Often it's the relatives of contract soldiers themselves who ask the Russian command for this. After all, the more visible a soldier is in the snow, the sooner his family will receive a death notice, and with it, the funeral payout.
For many Russian families living below the poverty line, this war has become a real lottery ticket. You send your husband, brother, or son to this so-called special military operation. The main thing is that he gets killed there and that it's proven afterwards, and you get an amount of money that the whole family could never earn in a lifetime. That's the kind of scheme Putin has set up for Russians.
This kind of business has practically become an assembly line across the border. To avoid unnecessary expenses, the Russian command doesn't even bother with proper winter uniforms for their soldiers.
That's it. This is supposedly considered a winter kit, but in reality there's hardly anything there at all.
Instead, Russian Z-bloggers give their fighters valuable tips on how to get themselves killed as quickly as possible.
You need a big one like this. Where is it? Like this one right here. This hat? Yeah, now that's what we're talking about. You put it on like this. Then you unbutton it like this. There, snap. There you go, voila. Wrap yourself up like this and you can chill in the trench in comfort.
With a hat like that, it's much easier for a Ukrainian sniper or a Ukrainian drone to aim at you.
Because it's a system. I truly hope that this is clear to you.
That's what the Russian army looks like in 2026. Barefoot in ushankas and with street toilets on their heads.
While diplomacy searches for formulas to end the war, Ukraine is betting on the one argument that has worked against Russia for years: force. That is why, alongside negotiations, Ukraine is rapidly accelerating the development of its own military-industrial complex. What Ukraine's defense industry looks like today, find out in our report.
The mass production of strike and reconnaissance drones, naval unmanned vehicles, artillery and missiles has transformed Ukraine from an importer of weapons into a full-fledged manufacturer of modern arms.
Ukraine is launching serial production of its first ballistic missile.
Ukraine is developing a universal missile system based on the HIMARS principle.
Ukraine has launched serial production of Octopus interceptor drones.
A Ukrainian company has developed ground-based robotic systems equipped with electronic warfare modules.
The Ukrainian defense industry has made a leap that just a few years ago seemed impossible.
Ever since the beginning of 2022, Ukraine has consistently demonstrated and showcased such an extraordinarily remarkable and sophisticated level of creativity and ingenuity that none of our various partner countries ever could have possibly anticipated or expected from us before. We have shown just how inventive and creative we can be in achieving dominance at sea, even without our own fleet or flotilla, yet still ensuring complete control over the Black Sea thanks to maritime drones.
Today, long-range capability has become a priority, and drones of various types are the foundation of the defense industry. This is exactly what Ukraine is betting on.
110 billion for drones. Ukraine has tripled its production.
It is precisely through drones that Ukraine compensates for the shortage of missiles and achieves parity with Russia in the air.
And in fact, for now, drones remain the dominant means of striking, even when it comes to long-range capabilities. That is, long-range drones, long-range strike drones remain dominant, and comparing them to missiles or any other means of attack is for now not entirely fair or accurate. As soon as we reach mass serial production of missile weaponry, of course, the situation will change.
And this is the key change in the war. Russia no longer has a technological monopoly, not even in the air. And again, we shouldn't forget about the sea, which Ukraine can control even without a navy. And it's all thanks to maritime unmanned systems.
The use of Magura has inflicted over $500 million in losses on the Russian fleet, according to Ukrainian intelligence estimates. Together with other platforms, particularly Sea Baby, this system has complicated the enemy's presence and basing in the Black Sea. On December 20th, 2025, Ukraine and Portugal signed a joint statement on partnership in the production of maritime drones.
And this is yet another significant change. Today, partners are not just supplying weapons, but are entering into joint production.
Ukraine and Portugal have agreed to jointly produce naval drones.
The Czech Republic's largest defense company is launching ammunition production in Ukraine.
Ukraine and Britain will launch production of interceptor drones to combat suicide bombers.
But let's get back to the range. Drones is not the only argument in this matter. A separate area is the missile program. We're talking, of course, about the well-known Neptune, which, after modernization, was transformed from an anti-ship system that sank the cruiser Moskva into a long-range missile for striking ground targets.
This was, I think, one of those presentations we've been waiting for so long, the long-range Neptune. And this is, after all, a more high-tech missile which is used precisely with pinpoint, almost surgical accuracy.
But Ukraine's missile arsenal is much broader, and as the president of Ukraine said in December 2025, it is being actively used.
I'll be frank, Ukraine is already using cruise missiles today. Neptunes, long-range Neptunes, Polyanitsia, Flamingo, as well as Sapsan. To be honest, we've started.
This is Ukraine's long arm. There is little talk about such systems, but their presence changes the enemy's calculations. Less publicity, more results. There are also results in the production of mortar and artillery munitions, but it's not just about ammunition.
As of today, Ukraine produces more 2 S-22 Bodana self-propelled artillery systems per year than the French company Nexter, which manufactures the Caesar self-propelled howitzer. These are some of the first wheeled self-propelled artillery systems that we received from our partners in 2022, the Caesar self-propelled howitzers. In fact, last year, Ukraine produced more wheeled self-propelled artillery systems than were produced worldwide in a year. Not just in France, but worldwide.
And the Ukrainian defense industry has no intention of stopping or even slowing down, so Ukraine, together with its partners, will continue to develop defense projects.
Ukraine and Poland are jointly modernizing the MiG-29s that will be provided by the Polish side.
Drone production, air defense, and aviation. Ukraine is deepening its defense cooperation with the Netherlands.
France has announced a deepening of cooperation with Ukraine in the field of drones.
In addition, Ukraine's Minister of Defense Mikhailo Fedorov is announcing new developments. For example, a Ukrainian counterpart to reconnaissance drones like the DJI Mavic and the Russian Molnia. And of course, as part of strengthening its defense capabilities, the Ministry of Defense continues to digitize the front and is implementing a new drone management system. These are not isolated experiments, but a systematic effort by the defense industry. During the full-scale war, the Ukrainian military-industrial complex has learned the most important thing: to respond quickly to challenges on the battlefield.
Every year, Ukraine continues to surprise the world with new inventions and innovations. And in a very real sense is changing the rules of war. Not only the war unfolding in Ukraine, but also the rules of warfare in general, globally.
The Ukrainian defense industry is no longer just surviving, it is developing. The defense sector has become systematic, technological, and large-scale. This means one thing: Ukraine enters any negotiations not empty-handed, but with weapons it is capable of producing itself.
That's all for now. Stay with us to be the first to know what's happening right now. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon!